Morning, everybody. Welcome to our Office Restart webinar. We hope you will find the time spent with us useful. We ask you please to switch off your microphones and cameras during the time of our presentation. You can also place your questions during our presentation on the online. There is a Q&A icon at the bottom of your screen, so please do so. We will do our best to answer all of them at the end of the Q&A session. And to the ones who like to use their time even more efficient, we wish you good appetite if you're having your lunch. So let's get started. My name is Radka Novak. I'm the head of office agency in Cushman Wakefield, and I work in the office segment for over 20 years. And my colleague.
Good afternoon. My name is Glyn Evans. I'm the head of design and build for Central and Eastern Europe region. And I have about 15 years of experience working across Central and Eastern Europe in project management, design and build sectors.
Good. So that's about us. And now let's get started. We have prepared for you some more things about the future, but let's have a look on what was happening before. Whatever has been before COVID pandemia feels like deep past, probably now to most of us. The companies measured the space efficiency based on square meters per person, so highly populated premises were key to success. Nevertheless, many companies have been already ahead of the game, adopting agility workplace concepts and remote working. For the rest, the shock therapy came over the first weeks of lockdowns, and we had to adapt quickly. So now that we all know that now the premises probably shall change. We have now and we have the future. But now it looks like the social distancing is becoming the biggest theme, not only in offices, but also worldwide in normal life. Waste of majority of occupiers, corporates primarily, sent all employees home, and suddenly we all had to learn new work techniques being on our own. All communication moved to virtual world in order to minimize the risk of potential infection of employees. The comeback to the office premises is very fragile now, and all employers are careful about letting their staff in, but also see necessity in reuniting the juniors and seniors and getting ready for the future. So what the premises may be after, we will talk about it more throughout the webinar. And Glenn will speak about the office restart soon, but I feel it is important to say that we hope this is a short-term solution. The office space will not be the same again, that's quite sure for now. There will be more than ever focus on well-being of the employees. Usage of high-tech building solutions will increase, and the landlords and occupiers will cooperate to quickly adjust to the new situations. The interiors will be adjusted to provide more space and adopt desk sharing with increased number of remote working. So before we return to the new era of office workplace, we need to safely return. We have done extensive studies worldwide, used the experiences of the first returning markets such as China, and created a 6-feet office concept that helps companies to get back to their offices. So now I will hand over to Glenn so he can share with you our findings.
Okay, thank you, Radka. So as part of a study that we prepared in April, we came up with a checklist of essential tasks or elements which occupiers and owners need to review prior to returning to the office. The checklist that you can see on the screen is taken from our recovery readiness report. And that's a document which is freely available from our website. Therefore, I don't intend to discuss each of the points shown here. I would urge you to download and review the full report in your own time. It's quite a comprehensive report and well worth a read. The workplace readiness essentials can be summarized, however, into 6 individual steps. Firstly is the preparation of the building. It focuses on the cleaning regimes, the pre-return inspections and checks of the mechanical systems. And that's a point that I'm going to come back to in a little bit more detail shortly. Preparing the workforce is about putting in place the policies and protocols relating to how employees and visitors interact within the office environment. Controlling access addresses the issues such as how many surfaces people need to touch in order to get into the office, the things like use of elevators, access barriers, and also access for deliveries and other people. Creating a social distancing plan is something I'll also come back to shortly, just to show you what Cushman and Wakefield have done already in our own offices as well as for our clients. The reduction of touch points and increased cleaning addresses issues such as clean desk policies, also things like food and drink policies within the office, whether that's a good idea still or not. And last, but certainly a very important aspect, is the communicating for confidence. This is all about ensuring that the employees or the tenants feel safe in returning to the office and cannot be underestimated. What we can say is that if your business has been through and considered the first 5 steps here, then step 6 will be made a lot easier and a lot clearer. So just to pick up on one of the items mentioned on the last slide, one of the most common inquiries that comes back to us right now is from occupier clients, and that is, what is the building owner doing to enable my business to safely return to the office? And that's a vital discussion that needs to take place now between landlord and tenant before the return. So from what we've seen so far, the preparation of the building can be focused on 4 key areas. Firstly, what are the protocols for entering and exit the building, along with the circulation within the common areas? What we're seeing now is that touch points are being reduced by opening doors. Floor signage is being used to encourage distancing, perspex screens used on reception, even down to a reduction of common toilet capacities where legislation allows it, just to reduce or to increase the distancing and to reduce that sort of meeting that could potentially happen. Vertical access through the office via the elevators is one of the biggest pressure points in the building, and therefore it's important to discuss with the building owner the reduction of capacities by adjusting the maximum weight settings. In order for this to be effective, however, employee traffic measures from the tenant side, such as staggering the arrival and leaving of staff, needs to be done in order to avoid a backlog of people waiting in the lift lobbies first thing in the morning or at the end of each day. Also, what is the new COVID regime, cleaning regime for the common areas? It's important to understand how often and how much. And finally, the topic of HVAC needs to be addressed. What we've seen already in China is a relatively successful return to the office, which was significantly helped by their ventilation systems. And because of high population levels, their ventilation systems are generally of a higher specification than those existing in Europe right now. Therefore, it's important to discuss with the landlord what has to be done to the ventilation, the extract, the fresh air, and the air conditioning systems. I've put some points on the slide here that need to be considered. You know, the airflow renewal, has this been increased? How often is the ventilation running? Is it a 24/7 system? What's the duct cleaning regime? Humidification levels are also important, because at certain humidification points, they are sort of the most optimum for the non-spread of virus. Filter replacement frequency, whether things like specialist filters like HEPA filters have been considered, although there's still a question how effective they can be. The one thing that seems to be relatively effective so far is ultraviolet disinfection. Whether that has been considered or taken place by the building owner, these are the kind of questions that need to be asked. And certainly specialist advice is also highly recommended on these areas. So as part of Cushman & Wakefield developing the 6 Feet Office initiative for application in our own office and that of our clients, we came up with a simple set of rules known as a Safe 6. The thinking behind this was to make the rules clean and simple, and to be able to reinforce these rules with signaling such as signage throughout the office. The rules are relatively straightforward, as you can see here, to be welcome at work, but to always act responsibly, to stick to the rules and follow the signs, to stay 6 feet or 2 meters from each other, walk around the office in a single direction wherever possible to reduce to increase the social distancing and reduce the crossing of people. Respect the reduced room capacities and to clean your desk at the start and end of each day. What I'm showing on the screen now is you can see an example of a 6 feet office plan we created for one of our clients in Turkey recently. By creating a 6 feet or a 2 meter ring around the workstations, we were able to identify how many can be used while still respecting social distance practices. The same goes for the meeting room, kitchen, and soft seating. These available spaces are highlighted by the blue stickers on the desk or in front of the chairs, with red stickers demonstrating out of use places. So again, it's reinforced by the signaling in the office, which is very easy to see and understand. The maximum capacity of the meeting rooms and other enclosed rooms are also displayed on the doors, just again to reinforce that social distancing and minimum use of certain spaces. We also implemented a routing system through the office using a one-way system wherever possible, and stopping points on two-way routes to encourage employees to wait and maintain social distancing. This routing system is reinforced by signage, which Radka is going to show in a later slide, along with plans displayed throughout the office just to remind people which way they should be walking. This second example is a 6 feet office plan we prepared recently for a client in Spain. This was on a large call center, which was then extended across several floors. What we were also able to do here is to move some of the workstations to allow for a better one-way circulation through the floor. So what we had before was all the workstations being pushed as far towards the windows as possible. By breaking up the workstations in a different manner, we were able to provide more of a one-way circulation route, and again, it's just decreasing the amount of times you have to potentially cross a person or walk very close to a person just to respect the social distancing. Okay, and I'll hand back over to Radka, who's going to talk about this signage.
Yeah, the signage. It's quite interesting. I was thinking about it to have a look at it also from the perspective of the user, not only that we give advices, and we have tested the 6 feet concept in our offices in Prague already. So I can share with you the experience that we had. And as we know, the human factor usually changes all good plans. And so we were expecting what's going to happen, but I can assure you that the infographics actually works perfectly. It's usually not easy to change your human habits and basically the muscle memory that we have, such as walking in circles when you make a call or taking automatically the shortest route to the kitchenette. But the signage is always put you on the right path, and it's actually quite fun to find some new routes alongside the office. And also it also keeps you to have in mind how many people are still safe in one room. So I really think that this is a great and very simple thing to be implemented. But when we have a look at the workstations as such, of course, we are trying to keep the safe distance, which can be also implemented even when you are not ready to give up on the furniture and on the volume of furniture you have currently in the office. You can use the zigzag seating, you can use the plastic kind of dividers. But when you are talking about desk sharing, then the hygiene is really the crucial point. That for that, maybe you can use the paper pads for every desk when you come in the morning to the office, but at the end of the day, you shall also use disinfection to clean your desk.
Okay, thanks, Redke. I just wanted to show you as well a case study of a project. As Radka and I have mentioned, we've done this for a number of Cushman and Wakefield offices already throughout Europe in order to help them to reopen. We're also working with a number of our clients to do this. One of the projects, which was the first project which finished actually, was for Puma in Istanbul. And we adopted the 6 feet principles to their office. You can see some of the photos that I'm showing on the screen here. So we have a one-way system reinforced by signage throughout the office. We also have the meeting rooms with certain areas, as you can see, which are designated for seating. So we've reduced the capacity of the meeting room. For example, in the photo there, you can see typically a 4 or 5 person meeting room has been reduced to a 2 person meeting room with some signage on the door to reinforce it. This was all done according to the client's branding style, because they wanted to have their own particular branding on this for obvious reasons. Yeah, and also we introduced things like cleaning stations. So we have like disinfectant, face masks, then special bins for gloves and masks to go into. They also decided to adopt the perimeter rings around the workstations by using stick-on signage onto the flooring in order to reinforce the social distancing, and just to remind people that when approaching the person sat in that chair, for example, that this is their space, that you are coming into their area. So it's quite a good visual reinforcement of that social distancing rules. Okay, so I'll hand over back to Radka, who's going to talk about a little bit more about the future.
Yeah, here we are again about the future, because as I said, we still hope that this 6 feet office shall really support you in coming back safely to the office. But we all kind of have in back of our minds what's gonna be the real future of the office space, how it's gonna develop. So now we can hopefully return safely, but we need to know what the future will bring. The number of seats in the office space will decrease. We anticipate increase in common areas and informal meeting areas. Basically, this means that the office workplace will not be a place to do the work really any longer. And in office environment, we are talking mainly about doing the work by sitting by the computer. But the office space shall become really a community center for the company. We all learned throughout the last weeks that the work can be done remotely, but the personal interaction cannot be left out. The juniors need to learn from seniors. The ideas are best created during brainstorms, and for companies, as for example ours, the massive flow of information is absolutely vital. So we think that there are big discussions if the office space will be reduced for many of the companies because of the desk sharing being implemented. We think that it might be the truth, but the biggest change what we expect will be really in the concepts of the space as such. We have spoken a lot about hygiene and social distancing, which might sound very sterile and not really pleasant to environment to be at. But we still want the employees to feel well in the premises, and well-being is really a big portion of what the companies have already been focused on the last 2 years, where the COVID pandemic basically accelerate this type of approach. And the well-being is not only in the HVS AC, the air conditioning systems, as maybe Glenn will touch upon again later. But it can be also addition of more greenery into the premises, as maybe the dividers can be done as a green walls, which will bring good atmosphere to the office. And also about the emergency state, quickly adaptable to an emergency state. I think it's quite important that we have done this type of exercise, because in the future, when something similar comes, hopefully not, but it might be, then all the companies who are already used to do these quickly adaptations and changes will be the successful ones.
Yeah, and just to add onto Radka's point there, from a technical perspective, what we are likely to see is some more increased HVAC cleaning regime, technology cleaning regime, things like UVC disinfection. I think will become more of a standard in the office buildings, along with other cleaning measures such as more frequent replacement of filters and other cleaning measures. The provision of employee personal protective equipment will also become more of a thing, something which we as a business and also quite a few of our clients are working on now, is just to have a stock of equipment such as face masks, such as gloves, and also equipment such as the hand gels for people, disinfectant wipes for people to use on their desks. That's obviously going to become more of a standard, so that businesses are ready to revert back to this emergency state that Radka mentioned just now. Another thing will be the increase in the use of materials which are safer for us, the kind of materials that we would typically expect to see in hospitals and laboratories and clean rooms and the like. I think that's going to start to become more commonplace as part of our everyday lives, just to try and protect us a little bit more from future situations. And we're also going to see an increase of contactless technologies implemented within the buildings, again, just to reduce the amount of touch points that we have to go through. So that sort of concludes our presentation and our webinar. What I would do is just direct you to further information, because obviously this was just intended to be a very quick run through of what we are doing and what we are seeing on the market. I would highly recommend and point you in the direction of further resources. As I mentioned before, the Recovery Readiness Guide that Cushman Wakefield published back in April, I would highly recommend that you have a look at that. That's available on our website. And also we have a dedicated website for the 6 feet office concept, where you can see some reviews and some further information, some videos, and a bit more inspiration as to how the 6 feet office concept works. One other document I would point you in the direction of, which was just released today, is a research report entitled "The Future of Workplace." Again, this will be available to all of our clients. I think if you check on LinkedIn as well, you can get the report on LinkedIn. I certainly posted it on there this morning. It talks about how COVID-19 and data will shape the new workplace ecosystem. It's a sort of 15-page report, some very interesting findings. Taken from a survey of about 40,000 people around the world in terms of how they are working now and how they expect they will be working in the future. And there's some very interesting findings which come out of that. So I would definitely recommend that you take a look at that report, either on our website or on LinkedIn, but or contact us. We can make that available to you if you can't find it. So we will move on then to the Q&A. Just as a final point, you can see my details and Radka's details there. If you want to get in touch with us separately, you can do, not a problem. I think we can have a look at the questions that we have. The first question that was sent, I think maybe Radka, you can start by answering this one. Do you think that in the future capacity, layout, size of office spaces will change? The number of workstations will have to be reduced to ensure less people in the office and bigger distance between them, also with remote work being more common?
Yeah, well, that's the question. I touched on that in previous slides, but there's a big debate about it, because in one step we would probably speak about decreasing the size because of the increase of remote working, but on the other hand, the distance in between the desks will definitely have to be bigger than ever before. So it looks like plus and minus work together, and the size probably won't change that much. But there are definitely different opinion by different type of companies how they would react to this. We generally, as I said before, we see the change in the concept as such, that probably the desks and the open space will decrease, but then the areas of the cooperation or relax areas and kitchenette areas, those informal meeting areas will probably increase. So that's probably what I would say about the size. I don't know if we have any other questions.
One thing I would just add to that as well, Radka, is I would point out the report which was published today, with the research report which Cushman Wakefield have done, which is entitled "The Future of Workplace." That is something which is addressed in here. One of the interesting learnings that's come out of that report is that one of the things it says is that the new normal will be a total workplace ecosystem, which I think is quite interesting. I mean, basically, we're just moving away from the concept of the office being the workplace to the point of the workplace being an entire ecosystem, whether that's the office, home, some co-working space, a cafe. Is basically it's a mobile working scenario. So I would highly recommend people to have a look at that report, which was published by Cushman's yesterday. We have another question, which is what is the solution for the cafeteria? I'm guessing, I'm not sure whether by that they mean the cafeteria within the building or the sort of the common cafeteria. Certainly, from the perspective
probably
of
the internal cafeterias, I would guess, because if it's
yeah.
connected to the 6 feet office concept.
Yeah, I mean, it's something which it's going to be very individual. There is no answer to that. It's going to be something which is very individual for each tenant in each space. But certainly as I touched on very briefly before, the bringing in of food to the office is going to be a more sensitive topic. The heating up of food and the eating of food in the office is going to be a more sensitive topic. It's going to require an increased cleaning regime around the cafeteria area. There may have to be more rules which are put in place and protocols which are put in place about how the cafeterias can be used. Certainly the distancing thing is something which will need to be done. And if you look at stuff that's going on in China right now, you can already see the distancing that they've had to put into these once densely populated cafeterias within their buildings. So things like shift regimes, distancing, protocols on how food can be brought in. These are all things which will need to be considered from now on.
Yeah. Another question for you, I guess.
Yeah, another question. What do you recommend to use for the floor, LVT or carpet? Well, I think the answer to that, again, there is no simple, straightforward answer. Obviously, more cleanable surfaces, such as vinyl and the like, are better in the way that they can be made more sterile. But at the same time, as I mentioned before, that there's products which are now in place from the carpet manufacturers, which are being accelerated because of this, which are sort of more cleanable, more sterile. So I don't think that you can simply say, well, we have to put vinyl and hard surface flooring throughout our whole office now. Certainly there is an advantage to that right now. But I think that the carpet manufacturers are kind of working hard to introduce new, more sort of medically approved, let's say, carpets onto the market as well. But certainly, yes, from a cleanable perspective, the sort of the hard surfaces are better. But I think the issue you're going to find there is if you say, right, well, let's put vinyl or hard floors throughout the office, you're going to have quite a noise issue, and I think that's going to have a big impact on people's well-being and people's comfort within the office. Another question which has come in: do you think that the table dividers are a good idea for office in these days? Radka, I don't know what you think. Do you want to cover that, or?
Well, I think there are different points of view on that as well. I'm not a big fan of those, but it can, if they are done nicely, it can actually help even in the times of the regular flu, when your colleagues in the office are coming in working ill. So I would say that, yes, it is a good idea.
Yeah, I think to add to that as well, I think that, again, it's about the flexibility. It's about having that flexible option of being able to react to issues, viruses or whatever that is. So I think to be able to introduce them is certainly a good thing. Obviously, in Czech Republic, we have people are now comfortable or not comfortable, but certainly used to wearing face masks after the past couple of months. So there's obviously a question of how effective and necessary a screen would be if you are wearing the face mask anyway. But yeah, I think that certainly, the safer the better, definitely. But there is that issue of whether people want to have them there on a permanent basis, because they don't particularly look appealing, but they certainly do have some effect. I think that the thing that we always have to go back to, as I mentioned before, is the technologies and the HVAC system within the building, because it's fine having a perspex screen in between you and the colleague which sits opposite you, but if you have recirculated air going through the fresh air system, then that screen is not that effective if the air is being recirculated around it anyway. So it really goes back to the HVAC. That's quite an important aspect that we need to consider.
I think that's absolutely true, because the HVAC is the biggest subject, even when we speak to our clients. That's the major question, how this gonna change and how they can really find out how the system works in their particular building and in the particular premises, because there are a lot of rumors about that. And also the question of openable windows, that's something what we didn't touch upon, which is so in some buildings they are not available, and it was discussion before, and now it's even bigger subject.
Yeah. Okay, I think we are kind of slightly just over the time that we allocated for this, so we can close up there. Thank you very much for attending. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you found this useful. If you have any further follow-up questions or you want to talk to us, you can see our email addresses below. You can get in contact with Radka or myself, and so we'll close it there. And we wish you a good day, and we will hopefully speak again soon. Thank you.
Have a nice day.